Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. You know, for most people, having a career playing Major League Baseball, being a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox would be enough. Someone would accomplish that and say, okay, did it, I'm good. Not this guy. This guy does that and then decides to get into the residential real estate business. And it isn't a few years later until he is a true MREA. Friends, this gentleman does over $150 million a year in volume. He is going to tell us exactly how to do that. I'm talking about none other than Pete Ruiz. Not only is he one of the coolest guys that you'll hear, but he has a model that guarantees results when you run it. You're going to love it. Sit back and buckle up. This is Pete Ruiz. Pete, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Jason. How are you?
I am fantastic. I get excited about every episode, but I'm really excited about this one because you have one of the most interesting pasts that leads you into the industry of anyone that I've ever spoken with. So before we talk about the 150 million you sell every year, before you teach us a model that we can go put into place in our lives, let's go back. How did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
Had a lot to do with you, actually. So once upon a time, I was a baseball player, played 7 seasons in the Red Sox organization, which was amazing. A lot of that translates into my business today, which we can unpack later.
All right, stop the tape. Hang on, dude. You can't just say, yada, yada, I'm a Major League Baseball player. We've never had a professional athlete on this show. And so walk us through, what does it take to get into the major leagues before you become a real estate agent?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a cool thing to share because my path was incredibly unconventional. So I was, freshman year, didn't play, JV year, sometime. My junior year, I really broke out, started getting some playing time. And then my senior year, I wasn't really recruited by any big schools, D1 schools or anything like that. And I went to a showcase and I linked up with a community college coach, junior college coach, who said, hey, I think you got some skills. So I go to college as a junior college as a third baseman. And I'm there and I'm like, you know what? I'm undersized. I'm not big enough. I'm not strong enough. I need to pitch. And so I begged my coach and he was like, no, we don't need another right-hander that throws 80. We're good. And I said, so it was literally one time I asked, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, the 5th time. And that's no joke. The 5th time I said, I'm going to throw a bullpen today and you can either watch or not. And so I went to practice early. I threw a bullpen and he was like, I threw 2 pitches and he's like, that's the most athletic thing I've seen you do on the field. And he goes, can you spin the ball at all? Do you have any off-speed stuff? And I said, yeah. And I was blessed to be able to throw a curveball very well. And so I broke off in the baseball world, we call it a hammer. So I snapped one off and he was like, you're a pitcher. And so I ended up redshirting, which means I was on the team, but I did not play in any games. And so the benefit of that is it doesn't count against your eligibility. So I still get 4 years. So I redshirted and I trained my butt off, ate right, lifted, long tossed. And I left 2 years later, a 10th round draft pick of the Boston Red Sox as a right-handed pitcher. So,
by the way, my producer just popped in and told me we did have one other professional athlete. It was Robert Lucido who played professional baseball as well. So I digress. We've had 2. Let me ask you this. The year that you redshirted, that adds a year of eligibility. So you now have a 5-year collegiate run. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's a really long time to wake up every day and focus on something and hit the nail, especially that first year when you're not playing. Is that just built-in self-discipline that you have? That couldn't have been easy.
It was really tough. And it was really tough because I progressed very quickly. So it's funny, the pitching coach was like, hey, why are we redshirting this guy? Like, we could use him right now. And it was my head coach who said, listen, this is a journey. This isn't about 4 months of us being really good. This is about Pete's career. And if we nurture him the right way and we give him the time to develop the skills he needs to develop, he's going to play at a higher level than any of us ever did. And he was right. And so he was the one who really got me to understand that it's the process, right? Trust the process. And the process for me was that 12 months, like I said, long tossing, weightlifting, training, everything. And that's what helped me develop throwing 10 miles an hour harder. And yeah, you better believe I'm throwing harder in practice and have better stuff than a lot of guys that are in a uniform. But I believe what my head coach said. And he was like, hey, if we trust the process, if you're patient, it's going to pay off in massive ways you can never imagine.
So you persevere through this. You have a great experience in college and you end up becoming an early round draft pick. What happens next?
So then I go, okay, this is it. I'm in pro ball, right? I sign, I get 6 figures. I'm like, this is sweet. I'm 20 years old. And I go to Fort Myers, Florida, and I play in front of 4 70-year-old dudes at 1:00. And it's 900 degrees. It's like 9 million degrees. It's every bit humid. And I was like, I'm in hell. Like, this is hell. And they're like, yeah, pitch your way out of here. And I'll never forget. So I went to rookie ball. It's called rookie ball. When I played, that's changed a little bit, but it was rookie ball, advanced rookie ball, low A, advanced A, double A, triple A, majors. A long journey.
Oh my gosh. So you come out of school and you're just now getting on the ladder.
You haven't even started yet. So my velocity is way down. I'm dying in Florida. I hate it. And I went and talked to my manager, and he's an old school guy out of Montana. And he's just leather, because he's just been in the Gulf Coast League for 30 years. And he was just like, if you don't like it, play better. And I was just like, touche. And so I just made a goal that I was going to pitch my way out of hell. And like, I got to find a way to do it. And it was really hard. It was not easy to show up every day, like I said, in front of, I'm not kidding, 3 guys that were just retired dudes that are like, maybe I'll go watch some 16-year-old Dominican kid, now who becomes the major league superstar. For me, that was where the pressure really started, because it's like, okay, I've worked my whole life for this. I mean, I have a thing, my mom has it framed still, 2nd grade. What do you want to be? Blah, 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 blah. I want to be a baseball player. And now you're right there. You can taste it. And you start getting little glimpses, like you get invited to major league spring training. All of a sudden it's like, oh, these guys get paid different. They eat different. They have masseuses. It's like you walk in every day and all your workout gear, everything is hung. Your shoes are cleaned. And you're like, okay, I want a part of this. And then, you get close to the end of one season for me, you get close to the end of camp. You're like, maybe. And then it's like, no, you're going to AAA. And it's just like, all right. And then your cleats are not cleaned, and, you're not eating steak and everything else. So it's this really challenging tether and dynamic of not only just trying to get there, but then staying there. And so it's really hard when you get a taste and then you go back, and then you get a taste and you go back. And so that was my journey. And I'll be the first one to say it. I wasn't some superstar that was, made $50 million like we all read about. I was a journeyman. I was a complete grinder. That's what helped me when I got into real estate, because I'll be honest, the things that I hear agents and other people complain about in real estate are just not difficult to me, or they're not hard to me compared to what that lifestyle is and was.
Well, before we get to real estate, I want to close off this conversation about baseball. Do you make it to the big show? And did you throw a pitch in big league stadium?
Oh yeah. And I got my time and it was incredible. However, you got here doing what you do, so we're not going to interfere with that. And so that's a two-way street, right? There's a lot of freedom there. And so with that freedom, you'll see athletes take complete advantage of it, where they just don't do anything. And like, in my neck of the woods over here in California, Central California, the Giants are a big deal. And Pablo Sandoval was a player where it was like, he got all this money, $180 million, whatever it was. And then he came to camp like 70 pounds overweight and couldn't play. I mean, literally couldn't play. And they had to send him to rookie ball and they just send him to hell and say, hey, you got to get thinner. And then there's also guys that really thrive with that, because the cool thing about sports and about life is that there's not one way to do it. And especially if you look at baseball, as a pitcher, I've seen guys have tremendous success throwing straight over the top. And I've seen guys throw submarine all the way at the bottom and do well, and everything in between. And so it's not right to try to put people in a box and say, this is the way that it has to be done, because there's a lot of ways to do it.
You're kind of forced. And the reason I think this is an important point is because it's going to show up again later in the show, gang, when we talk about real estate, but you're forced to make your own schedule. And you're kind of the CEO of your own baseball career, which is a really unique thing, only shared by that in our industry. You had to create your own training calendar.
100%. It's a routine, right? And so if you talk to any really successful, especially baseball, you're playing 162 games. And so it's like you go out there on Thursday and you get your ass kicked. And then it's like, oh, here's the ball again Friday, same stadium, same lineup, go get them, right? So you really have to have routine and process, because that's the only way that you can create equilibrium or stabilization, right? Because if you start changing your routine based on your results, then that's literally going to be your season. It's just going to be, things are going great, so I'm going to do this. And then, oh, I had one bad day, I'm going to completely change everything. So you're right. You are 100% the CEO of your own mind, body, routine, whatever it is. But the really great ones, they create a process, they create a routine, and they do not deviate from it. They might adjust it a little bit here or there, but if you adjust your routine based on a result, now you're just superstitious.
Dude, you just made the point. So genius, by the way. And that's the same in our business, is you make your routine and then you run your routine. And if it isn't on your calendar, it doesn't exist. It's always been that way.
That's it.
Okay. So how does the career in baseball end? What happens?
Elbow goes.
Okay.
I'll never forget it. Training table, getting a shoulder stretch, and I'm just feeling like acute pain in my elbow. And I was like, that's not sore. And it was crazy because they tried to figure out what it was. And I'm like, it feels broken. And they were like, and it felt like it was in my forearm. And they were just like, well, keep pitching. You're doing great. Like, and you're an injury away from getting back and whatever. And so it's like, and velocity down. And so long story short, after they finally really MRI'd it and got in there, I had a broken elbow. The very tip of your elbow is called your olecranon process. And that was fractured. And then I had bone chips, bone spurs, and I had a torn tricep as well. So it just kind of, not Tommy John, but it kind of just all blew up. And so I woke up and I called my agent at 5:30 and I was like, I'm hanging him up. I'm going to be a dad and I'm not going to do this on the road. And so that's how it ended.
I didn't know that part of the story. That's incredible. So now you look up and you're about to be a dad.
Mm-hmm.
You've just walked away from the career you've spent your entire life building.
Yep.
You have plenty of money, but not plenty of money to retire.
Right.
What happens next?
So I positioned myself to be able to obtain my real estate license when I was playing. So I had taken
Why?
I saw the writing on the wall for baseball. Once you're in it long enough, I'm a numbers guy. So I just started doing math and I'm like, okay, even if I'm in the big leagues for an entire season at league minimum, that's $500,000. And you got to do that for 3 years. And then you get to arbitration. And then you got to go as a right-handed, probably old at that point, reliever. They're going to give you $1 million a year every year. They're not going to buy out your arbitration for $10 million or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm like, maybe this is a way to make a connection. So I asked my wife, I'm like, let me use your phone. I'll let you read the message, right? And so I, hey, Nina, my husband just retired from playing baseball with the Red Sox, blah, 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 blah. We're expecting our first child. Like all these baby clothes are great, but could we do a bundle package on all of them or something like that? And in the message, I said, actually, when I said he retired from baseball and he just got his real estate license and he's with Keller Williams, da, da, da. And she was just like she latched right onto that. And I was like, okay, cool. That was my intention. Right. And she goes, you have to meet Jason Abrams. Now all of you know why I'm on the show. This was a shameless plug for Jason. So she goes, you got to meet Jason Abrams. She's like, he's the guy. And she goes, you know what? I'm going to set up an appointment for you. And so Nina reached out to you. And obviously, based on your appreciation for your relationship with her, you and I had a 2-hour coaching call when I was licensed for 3 days, maybe.
We did.
Yeah, we sure did. And so it was great. And you gave me like a lot of different pillars and you were like, bah, 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 bah. And I was like, okay, like trying to sift, like you were like, make a newspaper. And I was like, how do I do that? I mean, it was like a great wrap session. But there was one thing that you said to me, you go, if I could give you a list of names and addresses of motivated sellers, would you call them? And I was like, yeah, don't even know what the hell MLS is. No clue, right? I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll look that up.
Well, hang on, because we're about to unpack this because you came up with a great model. So friends out there driving, I get it. You are flying down the road in a new BMW. I am taking the notes, so you don't have to. You can sign up at MREAnotes.com. The notes come out on Thursdays, and everything that Pete is about to teach us, we're going to document, and you'll get it. So this is brilliant, by the way, because at the taping of this show, 47% of all of the active listings in the United States have been on the market for 60 days or longer. And 7 out of 10 of those listings have been on the market for 30 days or more. And when you put both of those things in context, it means that the average days on market is elongating. And what you've done is you developed the model. So walk us through. I'm an agent out there. I'm a mega agent. I'm driving in my car and I say, you know what? I haven't even had expired or canceled listings in my market in the last 10 years. Yep. What's the play? Walk me through it sequentially. Tell me exactly how to do it.
Okay. So what's really cool is the birth of our company was based off of expired and canceled listings, which is a formula of 3 things, in my opinion. It's price, number one. Anyone that tries to argue that it's not price, it's always price. I mean, it doesn't matter how crappy your marketing is. If you are at or below market value, it's going to trade, period. So price is a big piece of the recipe. Number 2 is preparation, meaning getting inspections done up front, staging. If you have a really, brutally aggressive color in your house, painting, wood chipping your yard, mulching your yard. I mean, we're in a market now where things aren't just sign in the ground, gone, sign in the ground, gone. And so if you haven't figured it out, people eat with their eyes. We're on our digital devices. Everyone gets pinged within 3 seconds, and it's a beauty contest as someone swipes through their phone or clicks through their computer. So you have about 15 seconds to get their attention. So that's the preparation part where, listen, we're talking about $2 million properties here, right? Or a $300,000 property in whatever market. It doesn't matter, right? The preparation needs to be the same because, again, you have to understand that it's a digital sale first. I always tell people there's 2 sales in today's market. The first one is online. The second one is boots on ground in person. You got to back up what you put online. So step 1, price. Step 2, preparation. Step 3, presentation. For the love of goodness, hire a professional photographer. The fact that I see people getting $50, $60, $100, $10, $5,000 commissions, taking iPhone photos still is ridiculous. And you wonder why they're trying to eliminate the real estate agent from the market. It's your level of service. And so what I'm saying is those are our 3 things. That's our formula: price, preparation, presentation. It's really that simple.
Take me to the process of even getting in front of someone who has a property to sell that's a canceled or expired. How do you do that?
So it's really this simple. MLS, look through what's canceled and expired. You cannot contact someone before it cancels or expires. Okay. Like some agent, like, hey, I know you're going to come off the market in 3 days. You can't do that. It's got to cancel. It's got to expire. So don't pre-call someone that you think is going to expire. That's an ethics violation. You can't do that. So it's got to be canceled or expired, number 1.
So step 1 is getting my data together as far as what's canceled or expired. And step 2 is getting the contact information in a TCPA friendly and compliant way for those folks that have expired or canceled. And then step 3 will be washing that against the do not call list to make sure you're in complete compliance.
100%.
So now I have clean data. What do I do next?
You call them. Hey, Jason, I know by now you've probably realized that your property is either canceled or expired off ML. I mean, again, I'm going to say which one it is off the multiple listing services. Would you be willing to interview another agent to see another perspective and approach to how they might successfully sell your property?
Okay, stop. When you say that, do you get the cohort of people that say, look, dude, if you have a buyer, bring it. Or if you had a buyer, why didn't you show up when it was on the market?
That's my favorite question. Well, just bring me a buyer. I will when you give me the ability to market your home.
That's so great. What's the other most common thing they say to you?
I'm going to relist with the same agent before.
What do you say?
I say, hey, I completely respect that you have a relationship with another agent, and I'm not trying to step on any toes. I just want to show you a different approach that's unique. And if they push on that, my next hammer is, listen, if we sit down and you don't like what you hear, you've lost 30 minutes of your time. If we sit down and you see what we do and why we're the number one real estate sales team in Monterey County since 2018, then you've gained everything.
Mic drop. Love that. So I know you know your numbers really well, but I know it's going to be different for every market in the country. What's the percentage of expireds that you speak with that you end up getting in front of?
I would say out of every 3 calls, we're connecting with someone. And out of every connection, I would say 1 in 5 or 6 we're going to meet with. But a lot of them take time to materialize. They take a lot of time to materialize. And I think the biggest mistake that people make with an expired or canceled is they think they're going to get a listing agreement on that first call. Like, Pete, I was waiting for you to call. And you know what? Can you come over this afternoon and sign this? It's like, it takes 6 months. My favorite ones are they go, you know what? We rented the property. We have a tenant in there for 12 months. I go, oh, great. No problem. I can put first thing I do, database, note, tenant is leaving in December of whatever. And in November, the month before, hey, I know your lease is coming up. Remember we talked when your property did, and they're like, what? And no other agent's going to follow up with them on that.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts?
No one. It's a gold mine. It's crazy. And no one does it.
So now you're going to get in front of somebody sets an appointment with you. Does anything happen after that? Is there like a pre-appointment package you send? Because so much of sales is in the framing.
Yep.
How do you frame yourself before you get there?
So our focus is being different. I didn't wear it today, but we have these cool white sweatshirts that have a big black sheep on them with our logo. And so we pride ourselves in being, the black sheep of real estate. And so again, that means that your communication and your style and what you're sharing with these people needs to be unique and different. So that whole formula that I told you about pricing, preparation, presentation, all that, we've digitized that. And we've also digitized it we have really cool commission packages or different tiers for different levels of service. And then we have in-house staging. So we're vertical with our own staging company. So we have that information because staging is typically the biggest problem, in my opinion, outside of price with an expired or canceled. It needs to be represented.
Staging. It's interesting because the casual observer would tell you that staging is somewhat pedestrian. And by all accounts, the majority of real estate agents still do not use staging in all of their listings. We've seen different surveys done that it's less than half. So why staging? You say it as if it's a magic bullet, Pete.
It's 100% necessary. In fact, if our clients are not willing to work with our designer or stager, we don't take the listing.
Wow. Hard stop?
Hard stop, because that's our brand. And so what's really powerful about that is typically when we sit in someone's living room or at their dining room table and we're trying to, pitch a listing, from the seller, and we're in agreement that we're going to execute everything that's on this list that we're going to do together.
Well, needless to say, all commissions are negotiable. But let me ask you this, Pete,
right?
Because you have very clear-cut value packages that you offer. And a seller who's sitting there, I think that the person who sits in a vacant home understands staging. Mm-hmm. It's the person who sits in a home full of things that matter to them, that they've collected over a lifetime, that doesn't. How do you explain it to people?
I say just that. I go, I understand that these things are personal and mean a lot to you. And like you said, it's your curation of all of your things and your tastes and your likes and all of that. However, we are here to cater to the largest demographic possible. And in order for us to do that, we have to neutralize this space as much as possible. And I think sellers really underestimate how much dated furnishings or not on trend furnishings can make an entire space feel dated when it's really not. I mean, if you have updated floors and windows and everything, really not, and you put a bunch of really dated furniture in there, it's not going to feel updated. And especially, it's definitely not going to look updated on someone's phone, period.
So how do you do it? And when you say you own a staging company, what does that mean?
We own a staging company. We got 5,000 square feet of warehouse with 3 box trucks, a full moving team, and a design team. We own all of our own furniture.
Get out of here. Really?
Yeah. I have an office back here. That's where I am right now at our warehouse.
Dude, okay. So walk me through that, because you went out and bought 5,000 square feet worth of furniture. You bought a furniture store.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you do that? Where do you get the furniture? How much do you have into it? How does the math work? Why does this make sense?
So in our market, if you're going to go stage 1,800 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath home, you're going to get charged $3,500 to $4,000 just to install it. And then you're going to get charged $500 to $1,200 a month from a stager. But I'll tell you this, the money part is great, and it pencils. We're about 50% of market cost to stage, because we still have to pay people for their time. But it wasn't the money, it was the streamlining. Because the problem, what would happen is, especially these expired and canceled listings, they're eager to get back on the market. Or you get a new seller and they're like, their expectation is I sign a listing agreement, we're on the market tomorrow, right? And so every time I feel like I have to go to another source, a third party, as part of our listing streamlining, it was a problem. Meaning I would call a stager, yeah, I can get to it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because they're playing a game of like, well, how much furniture do I have? How much is out in circulation? It's a logistical nightmare, but at the end of the day, we can stage someone's home tomorrow if that's what it took. And it's the level of service that we provide, again, in terms of being able to say, it's going to be tight, but we'll have all inspections done. We'll have you, everything we talked about, yard mulch, paint, touch up, whatever we need. And we're going to have you staged in 10 days and photographed and on the market, right? So it really was more about being able to control our own destiny and being able to say yes whenever we needed to say yes. But it started a lot. It started back in 2016. I was going to yard sales and Craigslist and like buying furniture myself and like doing it myself. For a really long time. And then when the business got big enough, then we just outsourced it. And then, like I said, I got really tired of not being able to control my own destiny and say yes whenever we wanted. So Pottery Barn, Scratch and Dent was the first place I hit. What do you want to sell me off the floor? Marshall's Home Goods, I should say. World Market is another great place. So like we kind of started that way. And then what's really crazy is that over the years, a lot of our clients are like, hey, do you want anything for staging? Like, could you guys use this stuff? Because we're moving to Washington. And we're like, yeah, sure. So, but I would say, we probably spend $30,000 a year probably in furnishings. And what I love about it too is at the end of the year, it's a really great tax deduction as well. At the end of the year, it's like, okay, here's my tax liability. Well, I can go buy $40,000 worth of brand new furniture that I can provide to my clients that's new and on trend. That's another great benefit of it too.
Is the cost, the rent of the warehouse and the cost of the team there, those are all just fixed expenses that you've learned to live with? Or do you own the building?
I lease it currently, but we are looking to buy. The only problem is like, this kind of building in my market, a couple $1 million. That's where it's more cost effective just to lease it for $3,500 a month rather than own it.
Do you market out? Like, do you use the fact that you own all of the staging company as a mofer in any way? Do you market to the world that you own all these things? Or is that just a piece that you pitch when you're with the seller?
We do market it in certain ways. We don't market it as much as we should. But I will say this, it's incredible how much organic marketing has taken place. In fact, I just signed two canceled listings yesterday from a lady that had called me, and she said, I've heard about you and I've heard about your group. I've heard about what you do. And I've had 2 goes with 2 different agents, and I'm ready to plug in and see what you guys do and how you do it. So again, it's getting around town real quickly. And our box truck says on it, and it's a driving billboard, complimentary staging for our clients, so we do put it out there, but it's really more so the piece of our package, that we offer.
I think it's genius. When you go back and you look at it, we're getting into the MLS and we're getting our data. We're cleaning that data so we have people to contact, and we're washing it in all the right ways so that it's completely compliant. We're making the conversation about, are you open to hearing a different idea about getting your home sold? You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I think that's brilliant. Then when you're getting in, we're focusing on 3 things: price, preparation, and presentation. And the thing that I noticed about you, Pete, you're very focused. You didn't say it's 91 things. You said it's 3 things.
Thank you.
And you're very clear, it sounds like, on what sells real estate.
So important. Everyone takes, these listing presentations that are like, well, let me tell you about this, and let me tell you about that, and let me tell you about, and that's the thing where we're really transparent and say, look, this is the formula. This is it. If you did this with John Smith or Susie Q at other brokerages and you really stuck to this, okay, you would sell your home for the highest value possible in today's market. The process of it is the hard part. And so again, we outline in our commission packages every single thing. It says what you do and what you coordinate, what you pay for, what we do, what we coordinate, what we pay for. And the value of that is the consumer loves being like, okay, this is what I'm getting for what I'm being charged. A lot of people just go, well, it's this much %. Why? So it's tangible. And where I came up with that was at the car wash, actually. I was at the car wash and it's like 3 options. And I'm like, okay, basic. And then something. And then the third one was like bubble letters and blue and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably just dirty water that they're going to throw on my car, but I'm going to pay for it. Right. And so I think what's been a really cool thing that we've seen, and you touched on it earlier, where it's like, okay, the expireds are coming back around and we're already positioned for that. In the beginning of my career, it just forced us to create this process of what works. And it's funny because that process is the same exact process that you should follow when you get a listing for the very first time. So what we do is we appeal to 2 different demographics. We really appeal to the expired and canceled market because they're like, thank you. I mean, these people go through a lot emotionally. They're like, is it me? Is it my property? And then a lot of people, they have their whole life savings tied up in this is their nest egg. And now they feel like they're illiquid and they're stuck. And a lot of times some people are stuck. And so being able to come in and say, look, it's not the easiest path. We're going to roll up our sleeves. That whole preparation word sounds simple, but it takes a lot. And we have 6 staff members that are exclusive to administrative stuff, and we can talk about that later. But we make that process that's very challenging, very labor intensive, really simple. We really make it easy and we take it off of their plate.
Just listening to you, and don't expound on it because I don't want to get you in trouble, but it must burn your ass when you read in newspapers that real estate agents don't do anything.
Oh,
because it sounds like you're doing an awful lot.
And it's amazing how many of our clients, like if you read our Google reviews, they're like, this is the best real estate firm or agent. And I've done multiple transactions because we deal with a wealthier demographic here, right? And I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are like, this is the best group. These are the best people. They have the best process that I've ever had in a real estate transaction. And I think, again, what's amazing is we really help these expired and canceled people. But then also, we just knock them up and nail them down the first time when someone goes on the market so they don't go through the pain of being on the market, expired and canceled. Because if your property sits on the market for 8 to 12 months and doesn't sell, you better believe that's going to devalue it. It's like if you get 3 hits out of 10 at bats, you're the greatest in the world. That means you're getting out 7 out of 10 times. You're getting out 70%. You're getting a hit 30%. So again, it's a game of failure. And then it's like, well, you got drafted, but you didn't make it to AA, or you got to AA, but you didn't get AAA. Oh, you got in the big leagues, but you weren't an all-star. And it's like, you're a 3-time all-star, but you never won a World Series. So it's like, not many people put up their feet at the end and say, I'm done. And so for me, my failure that I experienced was that when I got drafted and I got into the system, I did not recalibrate my goals to be, I'm going to play in the big leagues for 10 years. I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. My goals when I was in community college, redshirting, like we talked about, was I'm getting drafted. And that was just tunnel vision, whatever it was. I got there, I didn't recalibrate. And so there was a lot of, do I belong? Comparing myself to other people all the time, thinking someone else's failures were going to help me or be my success as a pitcher, a starting pitcher. It's like, oh, well, Zach got shelled today. That's got to be good for me. It's like, well, no, idiot. You got to go out there tomorrow and you got to do it. And so I lived this very roller coaster ride of a career of really highs and really lows. And I was constantly seeking approval, and I wanted coaches and people like, no, you can do it. Like, you're going to be an established big leaguer. You got this. And what I noticed was that first round draft picks had a different mentality, or guys that had an unrestricted free agent contract. They were financially free, right? And guess what? They're first round picks because they're really flipping good. So now you have these incredible athletes that just were given, $4 or $5 million. So they got to eat the best food. They got to train in the off season at these. I had to work, you don't get paid in the off season. So when I got out of baseball, I said to myself, and this actually came from Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett was my childhood hero. He kind of pulled this prank on me, and he pulled me up at the end of it, and he looked at me in the face and he goes, don't ever act like you don't belong. Ever. And I was like, whoa. And I didn't take his advice enough in the moment when I was in uniform. But when I got out of uniform, I said to myself, I was like, okay, you botched that one, because I was really good. I had a lot of God-given talent. I was really good. But I made peace with the fact that it wasn't what I wanted it to be. The promise that I made to myself was have a first rounder mentality for the rest of your life. That's it. And so when I got into real estate, and believe me, in this small community around here, every single day, still to this day, people are, you're not from here. You're not, the only reason you do business is because you were a baseball player. You're above, every single day. And I just put on my first round blinders and I stand tall and I just keep going down my lane. And that's what it is. And so once you understand that you are your own worst enemy and you either get in your way or you get out of your way, that is when you can make everything happen or not.
How are you purposeful? You're living a really big life. You got big businesses. You're busy. How are you purposefully building relationships with kids? You get out of baseball because you have a little boy on the way. And that's a huge decision. Have you honored that decision? And what are the rituals you've put in place to make sure it happens?
Oh, yeah. I made a pact with my wife. I said, in the beginning of my real estate career, I'm like, I'm not going to be around a ton. I'll be home every night, but weekends, I got to do open houses. I got to grind. And she was like, and I said, listen, I go, he's going to be 0 to 2 years old, right? Like, he's a baby. He needs you. He's going to nurse. He's going to cry. He's going to all that stuff. And he's going to need his mother to nurture it. I said, I want to have the relationship with my kids when they're 4, 5, 6, 8. And my big thing is I want to be able, hopefully my kids, go on to do great things wherever they want to do. And I'll be in a position to be like, oh, you have something big going on in your life in Denver? Yeah, I'll be there. No problem. Right. And so everything in our life is a trade. Right. And I traded early that time on weekends and home, whatever. But now, like I said, we have a full staff of 6, 7 people. And that's the big benefit of why we are almost at 20 agents in our group, because our staff takes care of almost everything in the transaction, which frees up my time to be with my family. And so we all trade on our team, some capital, like we got to pay them, right? But we get back our time. Again, we have a really cool structure in how we execute all the things I've talked about, which gives me my ability to have never missed one of my son's game. I have 2 boys now. I got 3 kids. So I got boy, girl, boy. I went to my daughter's horseback riding on Monday. Yesterday, I was at her cheerleading. Sunday, I'll be at both boys' flag football games. Saturday, my oldest has basketball. And so again, I haven't missed a single thing. I get family time and it's great.
How do you keep them grounded? Your kids are growing up rich kids, and dad was a professional athlete, and there was an internal drive in you, dude. You have a coal engine in your heart, man, that burns hot.
Yeah.
With kids that can have everything, how do you keep them grounded?
I hold them accountable, right? And the accountability is, okay, what do you want to do? You guys need to do something extracurricular. You choose what it is, but you're going to do it. And when we choose what it is, you're going to be the best at it. That's just what it's going to be, right? And so it's creating a standard of work ethic. And so we have a lot of conversations about money. Our kids know that we own a ton of rental property and they understand, okay, so we buy this and then someone pays us to live here. We go, yeah, right? And so we talk about taxes, and my kids invest with me in terms of they have cash and I'm like, okay, let me borrow that $200 and I'm going to give you 10% on that money. And they understand, okay, I'm going to deploy the 200 and I'm going to make $2 a month, but they understand the power of that. So we talk at a very high level with those things while instilling a standard and work ethic, because we tell them it's okay to have money. You just have to work to earn it. That's just what it is. And then I drop the shack on them every now and then. I'm rich, you're not.
I love that. Final question for me. You've arguably had 2 very distinct careers.
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you find the most fulfillment in?
Oh, my current career. Not even a question.
Pete, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Did I tell you, or did I tell you? How good is the story about getting into baseball, and how crazy is it that he goes through that entire process only, and here's what blows me away, only to find out that there's wild parallels between playing baseball and selling real estate, namely the fact that you're responsible for how you're going to practice, and you're best off practicing like you're going to play. He attacks the things that he wants in life. He doesn't say, well, I'm going to try it. If it works out, he calls his shot and then goes right at it. And you got a choice to make. Do I sit back and rest on my laurels and continue to run the plays that I have been, or do I seize the market of the moment? And if you're going to seize the market of the moment, I think you run Pete's model, which is number 1 in the TCPA friendly and compliant way. He says, I'm not trying to take a listing on the first call, but I'm trying to build a relationship. And then once I actually get serious about doing business, price. I'm going to make sure it's priced right. Preparation. The house is going to look incredible, and he will not work with you unless you stage the house and let him make it look incredible. When I ask him why, he says, because the way your house looks is what my brand says about me. I think that's genius. And then presentation. He's got a listing strategy that he is going to take to market for every listing that he has. It's no accident that he specializes in selling homes that didn't sell the first time, because his entire model is based around bringing specific value to that user. And if you go back and listen to Tim Heil's episode on this show, here's exactly what he said. He said, when you wake up in the morning trying to provide solutions for everybody, you end up providing general solutions that don't fit anybody. But when you wake up and you get wildly specific about the type of person you're trying to serve, now you can offer specific solutions to their problems, and you will always have a marketplace for it. Friends, here's the thing about Pete Ruiz. Does he sound laid back, cool Northern California? Absolutely. But underneath that is one of the most burning competitors that I have met. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Anyone can pick up and take his model and put it into action in your marketplace today, but few will. Friends, everyone knows that on MREAnotes.com you can sign up for the newsletter, but did you also know that you can ask us a question? And if we choose your question, you will hear your voice on our show. Well, this week we have one that came in from Dominique. Give it a listen.
What is the one thing that you feel real estate agents should be doing in 2025 to increase their business?
Thank you, Dominique. The answer is always the same. As a matter of fact, if you go listen to Jay Papasan's episode of this show, he talks about the one thing you should do, and he does it for 45 minutes. The one thing that every real estate agent should do to do more business in 25 is simply generate more leads to talk to more people about real estate. Now, these leads are going to come from a multitude of sources. Number one, new people that you don't know that you're meeting and discussing real estate with cold. Number two, people that you do know. That's your database, and you're having real estate conversations. I'll tell you the greatest way to kick off the new year is call in a TCPA friendly and compliant way every human that you know and simply wish them a happy new year. Here's the way that I like to say it. Hey, it's Jason. I owe you an apology. We haven't spoken in 41 years. I know it's on me, but I thought I'd call. I just woke up thinking about you, and I wanted to wish you a happy new year. How have you been? Friends, it is just that simple. You ask somebody how they've been, and it is a very short jump to where they start talking about where they live, how they live, and what's going on. Dare I remind us that those are all conversations about real estate. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning. You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an autodialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.